Well, hey, McFly subscribers. So, I have a review for you today. This is on the Griffin Odyssey Cam Vise. Recently I reviewed my Vise, the one that I currently use mostly, and that's the Renzetti Traveler. Okay, and I really like this vise. I think for the money, this is a great vise. However, if you're beginning tying, that Renzetti is like $170 to $200, depending on the version that you get. So that can be a little pricey. This is $115, and I'm going to put in the description section a discount code at the Fly Artist for it that will actually drop it down even more and make this even more reasonable. This is, like I said, it's a less expensive vise. It's something that can get you into it for less money. It's still expensive, don't get me wrong. $100 plus is a little pricey to get into fly tying, but that's what you got to spend. I mean, there really isn't anything good out there, in my opinion, under $100. And this is a pretty decent vise. Right off the bat, I'll tell you this is a good vise. And excuse my daughter in the background, you might be able to hear her. Sorry about that, it's just what it is. Hard to kind of get these done with the family here, so. But I wanted to get this out here for you guys before Christmas, so if you're looking to get into fly tying, this is a good Christmas gift at the $100 range. So all of them come with this C-clamp version, okay? And you can actually buy a pedestal for this this will stick into from Griffin themselves, and it's I think $30-something, $32, $33, okay? So if you do need a pedestal, just add a little bit more onto this. But it comes as a C-clamp, which can work. I've got it on this really nice table. I'm gonna pull this back a little bit. You can see this table that I've got going here. It's really nice to have. So this kind of elevates it and whatnot. But I mean, heck, you know, just put it on the side of your desk, you know, if you need, and that'll work too. Now I've used a C-clamp. Obviously this is a C-clamp also, my Renzetti. And C-clamps don't really hurt tables, just so you know. A lot of people are always worried about that. Sorry I'm moving this camera around so much. Trying a different way of filming these. You can tell there's just not much damage. That's wood. There's really no damage to it. I mean, they hold tight, but they just don't damage at least most of them that I've used haven't damaged any wood. Alright, so now that we know the price of this vise, let's go into how this operates and how it works. Number one, we all want to know if it holds hooks and how well it does. And this is a decent hook holder. Okay, this does hold hooks and a wide variety. You know, it's similar. It's similar to if you look at my Renzetti, okay, the jaws on it is similar. Now, the way that the cam works is a little different, but again, very similar. Okay. And my Renzetti holds really small hooks up to pretty decently large hooks. Now I will say this actually does better, I think, with even larger hooks than the Renzetti. However, the Renzetti is a little better on the really tiny stuff, but this still holds it and will work. So again, this is a good vise for a beginner, because beginners don't want multiple vices for different types of tying. So if you want to tie a wide range of, you know, flies, different sizes, you know, from, you know, really large 6/0 or whatever, and down to, I think this hook is a 6/0. I could be wrong, but you know, large hooks, maybe 4/0, maybe that's what that is, but big hook. If you want to tie really big saltwater stuff down to really tiny, minuscule. Oh, almost dropped it. This thing is like a grain of sand. You're probably not even going to be able to see that. I'm going to have to zoom in, get my other lens to be able to get in there tight. But really tiny, that's a size 30, okay? That's what that is. That's these. Little grains of sand. If you wanted to use those, this will hold it too. I believe the Renzetti, personally, I think that the Renzetti does a little better with that. But again, we're talking a more expensive vise and not a wide range. Okay, this does better, I think, with a wider range. Doesn't mean it's better vise, guys. but it does better. So it holds a wide range of hooks. I'm gonna go ahead and switch my camera, my lens on my camera, and that way you guys can see really tight of how well this is holding the different size hooks, okay? Okay, so obviously you've got to adjust this to the different sizes, right? And then you can get, this is a size 30, okay? And that holds it. There you go, it's in there. And there's quite a bit of room around it. That's right on the edge. And once that happened to me with my Renzetti, and I broke off. Now I think the steel on this is a little better personally than the Renzetti. I can't prove it, but it seems a little tougher. The Renzetti, I think, is a little lower grade steel, which is weird. It's a more expensive vise. It's a decent steel, and I think this will hold up for a long time. As you can see, that's a really tiny hook, and it's holding it just fine, okay? Now this does take a little more adjusting, a little more kind of work at getting different sizes, and you'll see. Let's move to a normal size, a size 16 hook. It's shaped about the same as that last one. And that one actually, I didn't need to do much adjusting down here because the thickness of the wire isn't much more, and it seemed to hold it. But if you move to something bigger, which this is probably not going to be all the way, I can't clamp this down at all. I'm going to actually switch the lens again. Okay, so this should get the whole hook. Well, maybe not the whole hook, but you'll see what I mean. So when I go to clamp this, I can't clamp it because this is too big of a hook. It won't, the cam won't all the way push in. So then I've got to adjust. That's how you adjust the different size hooks. And that's in pretty tight. I think I want to tighten it just a little. And there we go. That is not going anywhere. I'd probably break the vise before this hook goes. This is a really high quality hook. But yeah, so this is a 4/0 hook. This is a very large hook, but it's a rather thinner wire. It's not as thick as, for instance, this, right? So it's a thinner wire, and that's where the difference between how it can hold. I can't even right now stick that in. I've got to adjust this out, but it will hold this hook. Might take a little more adjusting for a large, really large hook. Personally, I almost never use this big. This is a giant hook. I mean, this is like a hook you would use for shark and salt water, you know, and I just don't do it often myself, but it does have the ability to hold something this big. This is the biggest hook I have. Oh, there's a little slippage there, but I'm sure you could adjust it to hold really good. The only thing is this, it gets wobbly, as you can see, because the rest of this vise isn't, I mean, I would say it's not as refined as the Renzetti. The Renzetti doesn't wiggle as much as this, but that's okay because this still does the purpose and you're paying a lot less money, and you get a little more versatility, I think, with this. So I do like the vise. I think it's good. Now let's look into how all these things operate. You can adjust this. The only thing is it takes a tool. So let's bring the camera down, and you see here you need a tool, and you can bring this up, right? So that way it's more in line, and that also helps with the size of hook. So if you've got a really small hook, right, and you want that when it rotates, you want the shaft not to move very much, you could adjust this down by using that tool and get that knot to move. There we go. That's pretty close. Obviously a little more tuning, I could get that perfect. But if you get a bigger hook, one that sits up higher, obviously that's going to move, so then you need to adjust, right? To get this basically, whoop, probably shouldn't adjust while a hook's in it. Probably a good safe bet. And there we go. So that's still moving a little, but with a little adjusting, really what you're trying to do is get this in line with that, which is pretty close. You can see there's some movement. It's a little better, but you know, move it down a little bit and it'll be perfect. And that way this, you can rotate it without the shaft moving. So that's how you adjust that, is this, and you need an Allen wrench in the right size for this, okay? Because that's got to fit right in that nut. So when you're adjusting the strength of the rotation here, how tight you want it, whether you want it to just be really loose and fall down, like when you let go it'll just bump, is right here. So it's actually the same way that the Renzetti adjusts, if you guys remember my review on that and how to adjust it. So now it's, you can see it's loose, right? So let's loosen both of those up. Let's line this up and then tighten this. We tighten the back one first to see how tough we want it. So this is, it's got some tension, maybe a little tighter. Yep. Okay, and then you can come through and adjust the back one to tighten in the handle, so that way it moves. And that's how you adjust that. Now I will say the rotation of this is maybe a little more sticky than the Renzetti. The Renzetti is very smooth, very, very easy, and I think the adjustment is just easier to use. Personally, this doesn't have as much grip on it. It's harder to get to, but really in reality, no big deal. You rarely are ever going to adjust that. But I will say the rotation of it, it's smooth, it does its job, it's good, but there is a little grindy kind of clicky noise, not noise, but a kind of grindy feel to it. It's not as smooth as the Renzetti. Granted, it is a less expensive vise, but that's okay. The C-clamp obviously is holding very well. There is no movement. I am going to be moving my table before I move that C-clamp off, so there's no problem there. It's got a pretty decent material clip. I wouldn't say it's great. It's okay. You know, in reality, it sits a little too high. There's no way of getting it down. I guess you could do this and clip underneath, or on the side, but I just don't see that being super feasible. So, you know, there's that. It's not perfect. The angle of this, I'd like to see it angled up just a little higher. So the way the Renzetti, you can see how that's angled a little higher. And I like the angle of this a little better. It's easier to work around smaller hooks, but this is actually easier, this angle, on larger hooks. So there we go. You know, if you've got a wider range, if you're tying more larger hooks like this, then maybe this is going to be better, that angle. The cam on this, so this uses a spring, which I think over time that spring is gonna, see, the Renzetti kind of uses the same idea. But it's a rubber gasket, which is cheap to replace. You could get another, I mean, you could almost put a rubber band on there. In fact, you could easily just wrap a rubber band and do the same thing. With this, it uses, and I'm not sure, maybe you could put a rubber band and work, but they use a spring on it, and I think the spring is going to be likely, I don't know 100% because I haven't used this enough to wear out this spring, but I would think over, you know, repeated use, you might get this worn out. And looking on their website, I don't see a way to replace that. Now you can replace the jaws, but that could get expensive to have to replace the jaws every time that thing goes out. So that's something to think about. Now the cam itself, it's not a fluid motion. It actually kind of, there's tension. Let's pull this down. There's tension, and then it clicks into place. It's almost like a spring. Well, obviously there's a spring on it, but it's like almost like a spring-loaded. Watch, if there's tension there, see how that pops out, and it wants to stay out, and then it kind of clicks into place right about at that spot there, and then it stays. So it's good and bad. Now, one good thing about that is it's not going to let you clamp down a hook too tight and break your vise or the hook. I mean, I guess you could if you really force it, but once that clicks or locks into place, you know, if it's not tight enough, then you've got to readjust this area. But if it's too tight, it's not going to actually stay locked in, it's going to spring back on you because it's not going to allow you to fully do that. So you're not going to leave a hook in there with it too tight and possibly hurt the jaws or the hook itself. So I guess in that respect, it's better for kind of beginners in that way. So once you get used to how much tension. But what I find is it doesn't really allow me to feel how tight I'm clamping it down. So with the Renzetti, it's all fluid motion here with this cam. Okay, that comes in, and you can feel once it kind of wants to stop right about, if it's here, you know, then you adjust, but you can feel it. This one, you almost don't feel it. So it's good and bad. I would say probably good for beginners, and maybe over time you might want to upgrade, if that makes sense. But it's still a vise that you probably could use forever and still be happy with it, because it does work, and it's a good vise, and it actually holds hooks very well. So you could use it for a long time, if not forever, and still be happy with it. So little bits. Most everything is metal. Almost everything on this, so except for these little pieces here, is not. So these areas that you're going to be screwing with your fingers, that's not metal, and neither is this. That is not metal, and that holds. This is what you would use to adjust the height. Pull this up. That adjusts the height, and then you could pull it higher if you want, and then tighten that, and that would hold it there. Or also even, that will adjust how this rotates, right? If you want to rotate it towards you or whatnot. Okay, and that's pretty much the adjusting of this entire thing. I mean, it works like most other cam vices. I will say that this area here is a little bigger, a little fatter than the Renzetti, so there's, you know, and then this kind of gets in the way a little bit, so on certain flies there's a little less room to work with around this area. But I did find one benefit to this is this is a longer shaft here, and when I'm tying an articulated fly, so I've got a hook here and then I've got another hook on the back, I've got a couple of them that I tie that they're smaller. So that was a much bigger hook. Maybe the hook's like this big. I've got an articulated one that hook slides right in the center right there, and actually I can take my clip and put it over top, and boom, that I'm not going to hook myself because that hook is buried in between the metal here, and so that's nice on articulated. It keeps for certain ones, not all of them, because some of them the hook might be too long and it's way back here. But even so, that is one nice thing about having this big bulky, you know, metal piece there. You put that clip on top and it just kind of covers that back hook. Might leave a little less room to work, but it does cover it. Versus the Renzetti, and you'll see what I mean here. The Renzetti, there is no flat spot to put that. You've got to almost clip it up to here, which sometimes doesn't work. Okay, that is one nice benefit, not hooking myself, because that can be painful. Okay guys, and this is how it comes in a box like this, with just a simple box, no thrills, but with the pieces like this apart, it also comes with a bobbin holder, bobbin cradle. I haven't used this actually. Probably should have before I did this video, but I rarely use a bobbin cradle. I just don't use it. It's not needed for the flies that I tie generally. I find it more of a hassle than anything, but if you do like having a bobbin cradle, it does come with one. It's a simple one for sure, but you know, it's all the different components and parts, and you just put it together and piece it together. It does have this thing here, which is instructions how to do it. It's really not that complicated. You could probably do it without those instructions, but that's how it comes. Just like that. And also guys, there is a lifetime warranty on this. I looked it up on Griffin's site. It says that their products, with the exception of a few of them, offer a full lifetime warranty. I don't really know what that entails. I mean, if you go and snap this thing in half or do something stupid to it, I don't know if that is a no questions asked lifetime warranty. How much it costs to actually use that warranty, what it really does. but they do say that it is a lifetime warranty. That's kind of nice to have that. Most of the well-known vices do, but having a lifetime warranty is nice, especially for something less expensive like this. It's only $100. You would expect it from a more expensive vice, but not necessarily from something this inexpensive. Being this price, hey, that's really nice to have a lifetime warranty. So there we go. I mean, that's really it. I mean, there's not much more to talk about. It holds hooks well. The price is right. I mean, it's about right in the $100 range, a little over for the cam. I think it's a little under $100 if you do the non-cam, which I highly recommend a cam, guys, because the non-cam, you're only operating on something like this, and it just doesn't hold as tight. A cam version is so much better. Spend the extra, I think it's like 15 or 20 bucks more for the cam version. Way worth it, okay? Definitely get that cam version. You're gonna like it a lot better, okay? Whatever vice you get, make sure it's a cam. Now there's a couple others that are different, couple other vices that don't work on the cam. They work, and those hold hooks very well also, but if you're doing something like this that does have a cam version or a non-cam version, definitely get the cam, because the way that they're operating, it's a different system that might not be as good at holding hooks. So definitely get the cam. It's easier and better at holding, okay? So yeah, 20 bucks more, it's totally worth it. And you know, we're talking, like I said, about $100 vice, especially after that discount code. Definitely use it. So the discount code is McFly10, and you got to go to the Fly Artist to do it. They are working with me and offering, and in fact, they're the ones that gave me this vice to review. I've tied about maybe 50 flies on this so far, and kind of got, you know, wide range too, from smaller stuff to up to a little larger, you know, streamers. And like I said, I even did some articulated streamers on this, so I've gotten a good sense on it. And by tying about 50, maybe a little more flies on it, and I do like this vice, so they gave it to me just for a short time to review it, and I am sending it back to them, and I do appreciate it. Thank you, the Fly Artist. But they're offering a discount code for you guys, so that's wonderful. So definitely get it there. McFly10 is the discount code, so when you check out, you can use that, and you can use it on everything on their store, not just this vice, okay? So whatever, if you're just starting fly tying and you get this vice and you want to add some materials to it, you still get a discount with that too, and that'll last for quite a while, okay? So definitely, if you check this video out a year from now, hopefully that discount code will still work. Overall, I like this vice. I think it's a really good vice for a beginner, especially at the price range. I mean, there are some, if you want to spend, you know, double up your money and get a Renzetti, I do think the Renzetti is just slightly better in certain senses. But if you're a beginner, if you're new into this, in fact, I think this is better for newbies, okay? There's just a few things about this vice that is relatively better for a beginner. One thing I thought about, Christmas is coming up soon, and many of you that are getting into fly tying are looking for a vice, maybe, if you don't have one already, that is in the price range that you can ask you know, family to buy for you. Now, $100 might be a little too much for some families, might be low for some families. I don't know. I don't know your situation, but generally, you know, $300-400 vices are probably a little much for most families to say, hey, can you get me this for Christmas? But a $100 vice might be feasible for a lot of families, okay? And if that's the case, this is a good option for you for asking for Christmas. So definitely have them use that. If they buy it, have them use that code. They'll get a discount. It'll make it right around the $100 mark versus $115. It'll help them, okay? So thanks for watching. If you like this sort of thing, please subscribe and also share with all your fish-loving friends. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.